Hello and welcome to our daily sketching routine. It's Saturday, November 1st, 2025, and today's topic is measuring proportions. Welcome to a new month and welcome to the channel if you're returning and if you're new. I sketch and post every day and I use a timer to stay focused and to build a habit. I'll start a 10-minute timer. So this will be a deep dive. It's a continuation of yesterday's video, so I'll link to that. But yeah, maybe, I don't know how many of these there will be. Today's focus will be, initially it really was proportions, but I added angles and lines. We'll talk about all of that, but it is basic drawing, so I feel like there's a lot to it and it takes practice. But if you have some good ideas, some knowledge behind it, some experience, and also, which is what I'm wanting to share, and then also just seeing somebody do it, I think would be helpful. So there's a lot to the idea of measuring proportions. I'm going to go over like what I know about, but mainly like what I use all the time. A lot of this basic drawing stuff, I wouldn't recommend spending a ton of time in any one sitting. These are just some things to kind of play around with and practice in whatever way works for you. Like I can't just do study and practice all the time. I'm always going towards characters or drawing from imagination or like stories or something. So that's what happened with the idea of proportions, is that initially I really didn't want to have to like measure proportions, but that's kind of like cooking and just kind of eyeballing the ingredients. Once you get enough bad dishes, I guess you decide, okay, I better measure the proportions. And then after a while, yeah, you can get quicker at it or have more intuition about it, but then I still rely on it. So I drew this from imagination in yesterday's video, but one way to kind of practice would be this. You can just extend it. So I'm going to do this, and so this is like one way to kind of get used to it. And you can use your own drawing or a picture or something like that. So this is not a bad way to kind of to do this. And it's also helpful for character design and stuff like that, because you basically have to draw them in the same proportions. That's how you get like this part, and then you can get the middle, so you can establish like the middle line. That will at least help you with the height of the drawing. The next thing would be angles. So that was one of the basic drawing like topics. So this helps you with some proportions already right here. And then the next thing would be the angles. So let's figure this thing out. Again, I'm not trying to be like that precise. If I needed to be more exact, I mean, I would trace over it, I guess. But I mean, this is pretty okay. And then, but like, that's basically this part, and that is proportion. But then you want to think about like the angle. Now you can eyeball the angle. I mean, you can just go like this. It's kind of like that. Or yeah, you could be more precise, but I mean, you usually don't need to be, but that's about like what the angle is. And then the next question would be, well, how do you know? Because this is for the idea of if you're looking, like you're observing something, how do you know like the proportion of this? So part of it is you might need these guidelines right here, and then that way you can kind of compare like what you, so because that's about right, like that's like the middle. We established that that's the middle. Now you can go ahead and just draw the middle. There's just different ways. So you can like eyeball it if you're not sure. So I'm going to eyeball it. Like I eyeballed this one. If you're not sure, and this is what I mean about how I kind of didn't like to study this, because I wasn't sure in the beginning. So like it takes a while. So I'm going to take this. So this is the measurement. And then I'm going to go with this. And notice how it's pretty darn close. But like I couldn't always do that. So if you're not sure, you might just want to go like this and just kind of, and then same thing with like the angle. Now again, I eyeballed the angle right here. And by angle, I just mean like this part. I eyeballed that. But if you wanted to be a little bit more sure, you could have placed it. So that's just like one way of practicing it. Now so for the rest of it, I'm gonna like kind of eyeball it. So I'm gonna go like this. And I'm gonna use this as like the center right there. Now you can do this with reference, obviously. If you have reference, you might want to practice this kind of thing. It takes a while, and it's not like the funnest thing ever, but it's incredibly helpful and important. So like this is what I mean about being able to eyeball it. But at first you might have to figure out like, I wonder where that is, that kind of thing, and plot it out. And it's pretty mechanical. And if all you do is sort of copy, reference, or trace or something, it's going to look mechanical. Because it is mechanical, like a machine could do this. However, it is useful for certain things, for drafting it. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to show you like this particular kind of method. So you would just be more and more. So when I first started doing this and learning about it and stuff, and some of this is just my own kind of experience. Yeah, I would have to do a lot of plotting, and then practice. Like that's why I do daily sketching, so that this stuff doesn't always like stick with you. So that's one way to kind of do that, and that's like a one-to-one kind of thing. Another way is the idea of proportion itself. So everything is proportional. So let's say that I just go like this. Like I need this figure, but I need it like right here. A lot of times it's the other way around, where it's like the thumbnail, like you need the bigger version of the thumbnail. But that's okay. Like this works too, because sometimes you're looking at something and you need to draw it smaller, like on the page. So it's the same thing. I'm going to figure out, so this is already the height. And again, this is going to be from eyeballing it. So I'm going to do this. And I'm going to say that this is kind of like that's the basic proportion. If you're not sure, then just measure from here to here. So that's like shorter. Like from here to here. So this measurement is the same as that measurement. So that means like this measurement, which is what that is the same as this measurement. And then you add the head. And that's how you get a proportion. Or keep it proportional. So now the next thing would be, so that's proportion right there. And I feel like proportion is actually probably the most important thing, because the angle of it, which we talked about yesterday, can be a little off, and it can be kind of part of the style. But if it's within the proportions, then it'll just look kind of like a certain style, but the proportion will still be okay. So this is what I would do for. So notice I'm staying within the proportions, but the angles might be a little bit off, and usually it's okay. Like the angles of the leg and stuff. See? But I'm staying within the proportions. I knew that this equaled that, and so I can always draw that like in whatever way. So I could just go like this. So this could be like a thumbnail, and it'll be in proportion, but notice like the shapes and stuff could be kind of different. Another way would be to, I don't really go into that because the stuff I do isn't really like that, but like if you're doing life drawing, you might want to get a book about like how to do life drawing, or go to life drawing classes. But I mean, the people running those things don't always know like everything about drawing. But then there's also the thing of like measuring, but you have to measure like in the exact same way. I mean, there's also methods where in the life drawing you're doing this kind of thing, like one-to-one kind of thing. I mean, there's all these different ways. The other way is Like if you measure, like use the head as the measurement. And that's not a terrible way of doing it. Just to kind of wrap up the video. Like you could use the head. Let's say that this is one head right here. And you decide that, like right here, like you decide that 2 heads down will give you like the chest. Let's, like, for the sake of argument. And then like here's like another head. So this is like the head measurement. Now I drew the square because to me it's kind of difficult to do consistent ellipses. And this isn't my favorite way of doing this because it's not very consistent. I get better results doing it this way. Like if I'm going to measure, and then I'll just put the shapes like within this. Like I get better results that way for like the proportion. So I just think, one, this is just kind of like my opinion, my experience. So sometimes I'll see like this kind of thing, but I mean, to me, that's kind of difficult to draw. But this is the same idea. It's just like it's the proportion of it. And then finally, to kind of like wrap up, I guess one thing is, let's say that you have like something already drawn, like you didn't draw like the whole thing, because you can go from sort of the big shape here and divide it into smaller shapes, or you could just have like the big shape, but then you need to add like more stuff to it. So that's where like the head measurement thing could be useful, where I mean, I really don't ever really think about it like that, but what I would do is take, for example, whatever this is and decide like, is it the same length or not? Kind of like this. I would just decide that, like I would think, okay, this is equal to this, and just make that decision, and then look at it and decide whether it should be, like, if that's actually correct or not. And as I'm looking at it, it's not too bad. I mean, you can add like the rest of the torso. I mean, so that's one way to kind of add that kind of stuff. And then you have like other proportions. So the elbow is kind of like right here. So you can do that. That's more specific towards anatomy, because you only know that the elbow's right there because of the anatomy of it. But the proportion is kind of like this. So play around with it. Don't take my word for it. Just kind of, especially for these symmetrical things, the proportion is pretty important. And yeah, I'll continue the deep dive into basic drawing. I want to thank you for joining me for our daily sketching routine. And if you enjoy these videos, please support the channel. I appreciate it. And until next time, keep on sketching.